Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Juju Show number 45. I'm your host, Ricarding here from Juju Engineering Land, and I have a couple of community guests with us this week because they're going to do the demo, and I don't have to do anything. So this is like I feel like I get a week off. I'm like, But Sandor, why don't you tell me where you're from and introduce your colleague here?
Yeah, my name is Sander here. I work for something called Hunt Data Center up in Norway. It's at the University of Science and Technology in Trondheim, middle of Norway. And we kind of run a big old OpenStack for research institutions and research groups that work on sensitive health data. So yeah, we've been using Juju and Maz and OpenStack for years.
Yes, you've been very active in the community and stuff. So who'd you bring? You brought, we brought someone. Are you sure it's going to be safe?
Yeah, so that's my colleague here, Matush. He made the tool we're going to demo today.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we tempt the demo gods, let's first go through our community news. So I wanted to highlight a couple of cool things. So we have a new member of the team, Achilles, and actually, who was the one? Okay, yeah, someone was trying to get ZSH tab completion working for Juju, and I have to admit, I'm a ZSH user, and I love it so much that I don't care about not having tab completion. I've always dreamed of having ZSH has really awesome tab completion features. I always thought it'd be really cool to have that really awesome, like, deep tab completion where you could do something like, Juju remove unit, and then it would actually, just tab complete the names of the units and stuff that you had, and you can really get nested functions and stuff in there. But anyway, I've not had any of it. I've had no tab completion, and people are trying to poke at it and see how we can get the completion stuff going. And what was cool was that Achilles just posted right before, like an hour ago, that he's got a PR up to try to get it working. And so I wanted to kind of keep beating the drum for the ZSH fanboys out there that, hey, you know what? Maybe we do deserve tab completion if we all join forces together and test this stuff out. So give Achilles' PR a test and see if it works for you. If it doesn't, and you know anything about tab completion and ZSH and stuff, I encourage you to participate, get involved, and maybe we'll have all the awesomeness that the Bash people have. Geez, I can't talk today. In our own favorite shell. So save yourself some keystrokes there. What do you guys use? Are you guys Bash users, or are you on the ZSH bandwagon, or are you like something funky like Fish or something?
I'm a plain old Bash man.
ZSH here.
Yeah. See, I knew odds were good.
There's always one.
At least one.
Hey, look at this though. And this was a rare case where we have 2-1. We outnumber. This is awesome. All right. But he has completion and we don't yet. So we got to get on it. We got to get it working. It'll be awesome. Next up, Tim, who I report to as my boss man. He was recently trying to play with libjuju. And I wanted to bring this up because I think Python libjuju can be a bit underutilized. And again, I want to try to get more people playing with it and adding things to it. So we've had some requests for folks around trying to get annotation support better in libjuju, and Tim thought, I've been meaning to play with that. So we played with it and put a post up on Discourse around his kind of first experience with it and getting it going and stuff. And I wanted to encourage folks to go look at it and see what's going on and what you can do with it. And it looks like we're going to be adding some support for things that aren't there. Like right now, evidently, we can set annotations, but we don't have a way to get them back out. But I know, at the end of the day, Juju is this great tool, but it's always intended to be something that people can build around. And I hear there are people here that want to demo building some kind of additional tool on top of Juju. And so things like using libjuju is a really awesome way to push it in ways it's really scriptable, hackable. Python 3, I use it to throw some stuff together. And so I encourage folks to try it out if you haven't. Find, good old-fashioned, try to replace yourself with, instead of a bash script, we're going to replace ourselves with Python scripts using libjuju. It'd be great to get some folks using it and adding in, filling in some of the gaps we have, or at least helping to identify some of the gaps we have, and really getting it to be a true first-class, awesome citizen. I'm always tempted to go, some used to have the demos where you would just kind of drop into a Python shell and then you could play around and script around on stuff. I always would be kind of fun to do that with a model, right? Like instead of, you know, Juju list machines or whatnot, you could just kind of from Python, like, you know, import libjuju and then list machines and stuff from a shell and have a cool little Python demo thing going. It'd be kind of fun. Anyway, are you guys users of libjuju?
Maybe.
I was going to say, I feel like that might be a trick question. All right. Yeah. So
don't
check
spoil
out
the program.
Yeah. All right. Check out Tim's post and let us know how you're finding using libjuju to automate your Juju goodness. Next up, Ian put up a nice, like, clean post around Juju and the Kubernetes support we're doing. In particular, we get asked a lot, like, why are we doing this? Like, how is it different from X or Y or Z? And we kind of answer, well, it's Juju, which, you know, is our way of short-circuiting a lot of the reasons we like Juju as a tool. But in particular, he bit at one of the biggest reasons, and that's that we support relations between applications that run. And in particular, with the cross-model relation support we've got, we have this idea that you could relate things that are in Kubernetes models to things that are not. So one of the things people always get to when they go to, I'm going to containerize everything, is when they realize things like Postgres, maybe it's not the best kind of thing to shove into a containerized deployment mechanism. You know, like sometimes when you need real hardware, anywhere you've got like a box set up for an application, that's probably not a good thing to try to containerize. Like it's in a box for a reason. And so he goes through how to leverage cross-model relations to connect a database running in non-Kubernetes land to an application talking to it in Kubernetes land, and then reusing it. So he's got, looks like he's got two different, let's see, that says model, deploy. Yeah, he's using MediaWiki and GitLab, and they're both sharing the same database backend. And which is what you want out of a database. You want to run one scaled up, well-maintained, backed up database and have it be multi-tenant, kind of application aware or whatnot. And using Juju to do that is great because you're using one tool and managing both sets of your infrastructure and having them work well together. So it's kind of a handy little bit of feature. And I'd encourage folks that are like, you know, how is this different than deploying this with a Helm chart? This is one of the reasons we think this is really different and hopefully adds a lot of value. So I don't know. You guys played at all with the Kubernetes? You guys are deploying OpenStack, so I don't know how much you guys have been playing with the Kubernetes side of stuff in 2.5.
I've mostly been doing OpenStack stuff, but I was watching the Kubernetes team have a demo in Belgium last week. It was good to see.
Yeah.
It's come along just fine.
Yeah, it's getting there. There's definitely still some things that we think we can want to continue to add value to. One of the things that I always run into is I am spoiled by actions. Like Juju Actions has been something that I don't know how we lived without and how how to work without it anymore. And so I can't wait for us to get the action support and stuff in the Kubernetes models and things. I think that'll be another one of those differentiator type of things. It's one thing to have a Helm chart to deploy something, but when you want to do things on it later on over and over again in a nice, clean, like tested and harder to screw up way, then edit these 3 config files and make sure the names don't get typoed in any of them and so on. The way we used to do things, right? So that's the news. I did want to address Sandor trapped me. It's like, hey, what happened to that 2.5.1 release? Because I'm pretty sure I talked about it being about ready last time I did a show 2 weeks ago. And it's still not out. And what I will say is everything's working as intended. We definitely got to build a 2.5.1 and took it to, we have a team called the QA Solutions team. And they validate the versions, Juju on top of Maz, deploying OpenStack with the workload on the OpenStack, and it tests out a lot of the stack of things that Canonical puts together and puts our time and energy into. And while they were doing that, they had a really strange failure. Basically, a bunch of the units got stuck in a initializing phase and never got out of it. And looking at the logs, it was very non-obvious what in the world was happening. And it only happened in their setup. So obviously, when you go to QA things and they hit an issue where they can't successfully deploy, that's a stop the line situation. And so we stopped the line and started investigating. And And we literally pulled every single person that works on the Juju team to go try to reproduce this while people were thinking about how could we possibly get to this state and going through the code and trying to think logically about it or whatnot. And fortunately, we had one person on the team who was like, so the bundle they deploy, it's a really large bundle, and it uses 23 physical machines, and it's there's a lot of moving parts. It takes a long time to deploy. It's not trivial to reproduce or anything. So, but one person was like, I wonder if I could get something like their bundle running on my Nook. And so she tried and threw just a giant bundle at her Nook and managed to get it wedged in a similar state. So now that we had a reproducer, we're like, okay, don't touch it. Don't touch it. We dived in and diagnosed it. Anyway, turns out there was a bug in the new Lisa's code that could get wedged if I think it required 2 or 3 different conditions to happen at the same time. And so therefore you had to have something big enough and wide enough that it could hit those 3 conditions at the same time. Anyway, long story is that took a few days, and we've been working on getting a new release out. So we put a new version out to the QA Solutions team this morning, and we'll be watching those runs, and that issue should be gone and make sure we don't hit any other ones. So 2.5.1 should be coming this week, and apologies for the delays, but it's a good old-fashioned case of we're much better when we catch it before it goes out than fixing it after it's gone out. So you'll have a better 2.5.1 for it. So thank you, QA Solutions, and thank you, Heather, for getting the repro, and basically the rest of the team for chasing it down and getting it fixed, because it was one of those tricky ones. There are times where you look at Juju and it goes, oh, it's very simple. I just deploy this and I do that, and I can read a couple of logs and see what's going on. And there are other times where you're like, man, I don't often appreciate how big and complicated and how many moving parts there are to the machinery that is, Juju at scale. Anything else you want to trap me with, Sandor?
No, we're looking forward to the new release. So, but I'm happy for the QA thing, because yeah, we do the same with OpenStack. There's so many moving parts; it's hard to hit stuff. So
yeah,
that's how it goes.
Speaking of OpenStack, for our main topic, Sandor here wanted to show off their new tool, newish. I guess at this point you've been talking about it for a little bit, but how are we saying it? I keep wanting to go some kind of Narnia reference, but it's like,
again, I guess the author.
There you go. The author has to give us the pronunciation.
Well, I don't see any connection with Narnia. Probably I haven't watched it enough, but I would say the French way, Jujuna.
Jujuna, okay.
Yeah.
It's the na. I feel like the na. Like I want to go into like the Narnia. I don't know why. It's just how my head went there. Now I can't. It's one of the things where once you see it, you can't unsee it. So yeah. I keep going like, all right. So Jujuna. All right. So what in the world is a Jujuna?
Do you want to explain or shall I?
Go on.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So basically, just a short recap on how we ended up here. We've been running OpenStack on Juju and everything, and been using the OpenStack charms for about 2 years now, and they're pretty rock solid. And they have a great team, and they have a huge internal CI system that tests things. We're kind of an academic bunch, so we're going to do weird things and have weird hardware and all kinds of one-offs. So we kind of wanted to test everything from revisions to the actual OpenStack upgrades in a kind of a systematic way. So as you might have known, if you deploy an OpenStack, especially using the OpenStack charmers, like there's a few steps you need to go through in order to upgrade the whole thing. So luckily, the OpenStack charmers has a great charm deployment guide that kind of helps you go through all these things. So what kind of order, what kind of services, which parts do you need to take care of? However, sometimes, okay, if we want to make sure we can do this all the time for every new release, it's kind of a hassle. So that's where Matoush came in and helped us, and he created a tool using Python 3 and libjuju to kind of just programmatically go through all these steps in a somewhat sane way. And we can put it in a CI runner or something and basically make it run whenever you want on the new release or on the schedule. That's kind of the short bit of it.
Well, that sounds cool. So I heard you guys wanted to kick off a demo. This might take a little bit. So why don't we kick off a demo and then we can dive into some of the weeds of how you guys have put this together and some of the challenges and things you guys hit when you were working on it.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. So let's see if y'all can see my screen. So we have a small kind of demo project in a Vagrant box, which is kind of handy. So if you want to test it out and you don't have a Juju controller already, you can fire up. I'll show the documentation afterwards. But it basically fires up a Vagrant box. It deploys Juju and bootstraps the controller. And it sets up a small Keystone cluster with a kind of Percona backend database. So it's set up in a kind of HA mode where there's 3 units and there's CoroSync and Pacemaker and things between. And we purposefully chose a kind of an old version. So it's running Newton and some older charms. So now we would like to kind of step through, make sure the upgrades goes well, and just show the OpenStack charmers. They have a great charms deployment guide, which I highly recommend reading through if you're going to do these things. They have an appendix for actually doing the OpenStack charm upgrades. And they will kind of explain, okay, what's the different terms? Okay, you want to make sure you upgrade the charms. That's one part. Doing the actual OpenStack upgrade is one part. There's packages on the server that you want to take care of as well. And let's see, there's also, of course, check out the release notes. Those are important. But basically, they have a kind of an upgrade order that you want to step through, that you want to follow. And then usually Keystone is always the first thing to go. And it's a nice standalone application, so we chose that. So yeah, we have 3 units here and a Percona cluster in backend. And let's see, we can previously, to save us some time, I've actually run the deploy step of Jujuna, because we do that as well. It's kind of just a wrapper for doing Juju deploys. However, it kind of tells us when things are done. So we kind of have the same thing as you would do in the CI system. If you want to wait, okay, you have a timeout of a couple of hours, but I would like to see if the thing can complete before that. And then we'll tell you, basically the script will finish if it's all done and active and all the charms are happy. So I already done that. And we can check out the help thing very quickly. So there's a couple of parts you can deploy, upgrade. You can do some tests. So you can define your own tests, and you can kind of clean the thing just as you would like a CI system. So let's do the upgrade part. We can steal the commands from the documentation here. Let's see.
Oh, you're cheating the demo guys. You're not going to live type stuff and everything.
Oh man, I've seen so many times where that goes wrong. So I am not. It's OpenStack already. I'm not daring these. Yeah, I'm not taking the chance here.
Wise man. Wise man.
Well, I'll explain quickly. So it's Jujuna. We deploy. We add a simple bundle, which is plain kind of charm bundle, and then we wait. So it will go through, read it as you would. That's already done. So see. I see. Demo gods. I copied the wrong line. I wanted to do the upgrade part. See?
I was going to ask you, but I thought, okay.
See, nobody told me. Nobody told me. Just checking. So, no, so the proper thing, of course, what we want to do in this case, we want to upgrade from Newton to Okata, which is kind of the next step up. So we choose the kind of the OpenStack origin. So the cloud the kind of the cloud source that determines what kind of OpenStack release you're doing on Ubuntu. So you have Cloud, Xenial, Okata, you have Pike, you have all these different things that you can find.
And that's the cloud archive, basically.
Yeah, that's the cloud archive.
Because all the OpenStack stuff comes from a cloud archive, which is the package, like repository for all the bits for that version of your OpenStack, basically, right? So
that's where that comes from. So yeah, we basically tell it what we want to upgrade to. We also tell it, okay, in this time we want to upgrade the Keystone application and just that. So by default, it will basically go through all the applications as if you would have a proper OpenStack deployment, but you can tell it to do one-offs. So I'll just go ahead and start that, and then we'll check out what it needs to do. It finds the applications present, so it finds the Percona cluster, the Keystone. It will then check the charm store, basically for each charm, what kind of revision is the latest, and it will upgrade to that. So that's very nice if you have a huge bundle or a huge model with a bunch of applications and you don't want to step through all of them, hit charm upgrade, this does it for you. You can also do that just separately if you just want to get a new charm revisions without doing any big OpenStack upgrades. Because the OpenStack charmers, they have multiple releases. I forget what's the current release cadence, but it's like almost every second month. So it's usually good to get.
So we release new charms every 3 months. Normally there's
that's the 3 months, yeah.
Because we follow OpenStack 6 months, and then there's normally a mid-cycle charm release in the middle there of any bug fixes and other kind of major things there.
Right. So let's see. It then basically upgraded the keystone thing, and it'll check, okay, wait until the charms are settled because they need to do their own thing, not the actual OpenStack part, but just the charm parts.
Yeah, the charm hooks and everything for wherever their upgrade steps are. And
so they need to do their thing. And then basically when that's kind of settled, it will then try to piece by, or basically unit by unit, pause the keystone service, as basically the charm deployment guide says, like, okay, you find out which is the leader, it will pause that, you'll start doing the upgrades there, and then if it's done, you resume and you go to the next one. So it should be a nice rolling upgrade, basically.
Nice.
So yeah, that will just chug along. And,
cool. So while that runs, questions for you guys then. So, so you guys are using libjuju for checking the status of things and for doing the actions. Is everything like the pausing and resuming and all that all part of the libjuju work that you guys were put in place here?
Yeah. So that's doing all those parts, is doing the deploy parts, the upgrade parts, and we'll also clean out the model after we're done. So basically you need to give it a Juju model that has access to some machines. In our case, we have a couple of test racks of just equipment hooked up to a MAS. So we're actually testing on hardware because we're seeing that's where a bunch of the, the nitty gritty comes, shows itself. Network failures, whatever, everything.
Yeah, I was going to say networking and such tends to be a big deal where you could test setups, but if they're not multiple NICs and set up in the same way, you don't catch all those kind of things in a little small sample lab versus when you do you actually use this to upgrade production, or you're just using it to test upgrades before you go through and execute them in production?
For now, we've been using it a lot for the test stuff, but we still have a kind of a big old production thing that's still stuck on the old version because we didn't dare to touch it. But basically, seeing the amount of steps we need to do, we'll probably use this, maybe not go through the whole thing at once, but it's very nice to just tell us, okay, let's do keystone now, see if it goes okay. It gives you a nice way to kind of just do it stepwise, but still in a kind of automated fashion. So I know it's going to pull up the correct leader or the correct unit in this case. So it's giving us a lot of confidence in kind of seeing what's going to happen and which steps we need to do.
Cool. So for the pause actions and stuff, I wonder in 2.5 we had a change where you can address an action to a leader just by appending /leader on it. So you can say Juju run action, keystone /leader instead of a number, and then it leaves it on Juju to figure out who the leader is and to run the action there. Is that something that you guys will find useful to help cut out some logic?
Yeah, I don't know. Have you seen it? Yeah. Because you did some work on that, Matush, just to kind of reproduce because we kind of were inspired, to say it nicely, by the OpenStack charmers because they have a kind of a CI script that they do for their own testing. But they of course also have automated these upgrade steps when they do testing and stuff. However, it wasn't using libjuju, and it was had some dependency on their whole CI infrastructure, so we couldn't straight out copy that. But yeah, you did some work on just figuring out the unit leader stuff, I think. Yeah,
cool.
That's gonna go ahead and do search stuff.
The other thing is, have you guys looked at another 2.5 feature is the series upgrade? Have you guys looked at what it'll take to handle upgrading the OS underneath as well as part of a large multi-step upgrade?
We don't have it yet there, but I'm very happy to put it in and try it with newer versions as soon as we get there.
Yeah. What series version is your guys' production OpenStack that you've got to upgrade?
Yeah, we're still on Xenial and Newton, so we got some jumps to go before we can kind of get in place to do the series upgrades.
Nice.
But it's great to see the work there because, yeah, we need to do that as well, and the more people that work on that part as well is a good thing.
I like that it seems like it should fit in line fairly nicely with what you guys have going here around just kind of scripting the steps that are in their upgrade guide. Like I know they've upgraded their upgrade guide for the series upgrade notes and stuff as well, and it's kind of it's something where there's a couple of automated steps and there's just kind of this manual hole where the operator can go in and actually do release upgrade and handle that kind of stuff. But if you know what's going on there, you might be able to automate that setup with some Juju run or Juju SSH or something. I'm curious. Cool.
Yeah. So now it's finally determined the ordering. So next time we'll have to do it for 2.5 and make that much nicer. But yeah, they basically figured out the keystone, what kind of order we need to go through, and it goes ahead, and this time it does on unit 2. And we'll pause it and do the upgrade there and resume it if everything's good, and then we'll jump to the next one.
Cool. So you guys are testing basically different changes. I know you said you've got your one production one. Are you doing testing for other environments, or do you have more open? I'm assuming if you're automating this stuff that you've got more than the one OpenStack that you're worried about keeping up.
Yeah, the main one is we got one big production one, and then we're getting a new site, and then we have a few smaller testing things. So now we're gonna get some. We're basically getting in a lot more computes with the GPUs, and we need to test out some new revisions here and there and see how the pass-through works. So we want to deliver VMs with GPU capabilities. So there's a bunch of that stuff. We need to do some one-off charms where we're hitting some weird things, and then we just write our own charm, but then we want to make sure if another charm revision upstream does something, is that going to kill our kind of custom thing? So there's a bunch of cases where it kind of is very handy to just go through the whole thing, even if we're just changing our kind of production bundle that we use to keep track of what's going on in production. If there's a change there, we can kick off a job and we'll check if it's okay.
Oh, very cool. Have you guys looked at multipass at all?
I saw someone show it off a little bit last week, but feel free to go ahead while this is working.
Well, so what's nice is it's it works across OSs. So I noticed you guys are using Vagrant. I know one of the common places people use Vagrant, like, or when they're testing or doing things on a Mac or on Windows. And I could see that being a really useful like test setup for working on charms, especially like you mentioned a university setup or whatnot, where you know, to get students and stuff playing with stuff they may be on other OSs. But multipass has been really, I've kind of converted all my VM use on my Mac to multipass because it's really fast. It uses an underlying kind of VM layer, but it abstracts it so that it's the same commands and scripts and stuff in all three, whether you're on Windows, Mac OS, or Linux. And I know they recently announced their beta for Windows users. So I don't know whether or not that's important or whether it's the Vagrant ability to have kind of more complex network setups or what. But I'm kind of curious whether or not that would be something that would be interesting from the snake that is kind of baked in the sense you can snap install it on Linux or brew install it on Mac OS. And then it's pretty darn quick and seamless. And I know that they're starting to work with the LXD team so that you may be able to use it as like a front end LXD stuff and kind of manage a bunch of VMs, pause and resume them and such with simple commands and things.
No, that sounds very interesting. Do you know how it works kind of in the nitty-gritty details?
No, I'll be honest. I'm spoiled in the sense that it does what I need it to do. So I have about 12 different VMs on my Mac that I use for when I'm doing Juju development work or if I'm doing demos for the Juju Show or whatever. And so I have a bunch of them labeled out for Juju testing, Juju development, Juju Show, and then some other things for like GUI development and stuff. And I've kind of got these pre-baked VMs. I just start the one I need whenever I'm working on a project and stop it. And it's been pretty nice and smooth, and it doesn't seems much more lightweight than managing, like, I don't have to go, it uses normal canonical streams for getting images and things, so I don't have to go preload any ISOs of any images and all that. It just kind of runs and keeps itself up to date and can create new ones on the fly really easily. And I don't know, I guess being I'm a terminal junkie, so part of it's just that it's really clean command line. So that makes it easier than finding where the checkbox is for the thing and walking through clicking the radio buttons on my way to creating a new VM.
Yeah, but that sounds super neat though. But do you know,
might be, yeah,
supports kind of, so the nice thing about Vagrant, at least, I mean, of course it tries to do a lot more things, so I won't compare it that way, but the nice thing is, for example, just hooking up like an Ansible playbook straight in the thing, and then basically when you fire it up, it will already do some commands for you. So in our case, it just already fires up the Juju things and install the dependencies, which is super nice. But that might be possible with the multipath thing as well, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I mean, again, I'm just trying to look real quick at the docs, because what I'm curious about is whether or not it supports cloud init style, execute the script when you launch kind of thing.
Yeah, that'd be very
most of our stuff tends to do it. So yeah, you can pass a cloud init file to an instance. So multipass launch with a cloud init flag. So it's very, very much in line with our kind of standard image, where our images can take a cloud init config on start. We use that for like Juju instances when they run in a cloud. Give me an instance and run this cloud init script, when you start up. So it supports a kind of common setup like that. I'm not sure what all is in the Ansible playbook that, how that might mirror, but I would imagine it would be a pretty, apt install or snapped install the following bits of things or whatnot. So,
yeah. No,
anyway,
but
it might be, I'd be curious. We'd be curious to get your guys' feedback and whether or not that looks useful or not. Again, for whatever, depending on what reasons you're using Vagrant, whether or not they're kind of already baked in, or if there's things that are gaps that would be, in the end, still good feedback for us to know on how people are using things and what kind of stuff is interesting or important to them.
Yeah.
Cool. We're cranking through. We got Unit 2 done. I saw Unit 0 going.
Yeah. It's going to be a few minutes, I guess. In the meantime, I can also just show the documentation. It's basically, it's just a standard Jujuna or Python documentation thing. So it's on read the docs. We got a GitHub open. Happy to take issues and let people hammer it, as you usually say.
Definitely. I know we got links in the show notes for the show today on the discourse page. So we encourage folks to go to discourse.jujucharms.com and look for Juju Show 45, or look for, oh man, I'm going to say it wrong now. It's been too long. Jujuna?
You have to think French.
I have to think French. I am not good at that. I am not the one to do that. We have a bunch of people on our team to do that for us. Is what I like to say. I had a Frenchman on my last team, and it was great because he would very, very straight face out there. Oh no, it is all shit. It is all shit. Anyway, so that's my best French impression I've got. So all right. Well, I mean, so this was really cool to help script automate for testing your OpenStack upgrades. It seems like a really nice layer on top of all the tooling that the OpenStack teams put in place to make this very scriptable, from running actions and all that. So it's really kind of cool to see, you end up with tools, that it's all turtles all the way down. You wrap one tool with another tool with another tool, and each one adds value along the way. And one day you go, man, this is really easy to do. And you kind of forget how much work that actually used to be.
Yeah.
I can see this making upgrading OpenStack one of those things where, like, man, it used to be so hard. We used to dedicate like a team of folks. They block the day out, OpenStack upgrade day, and all hands on deck. And hopefully you guys are taking some of that out of it, some of that pain and sting out.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on and giving us a demo and talking about it. As always, if anyone has, try it out and has any feedback, I recommend you chat with Sandor's in IRC on Discourse. We'll have to get Mashush going and getting him active and speaking out in there. He seems a little quiet. Maybe we can get him a little bit louder when we put him behind a keyboard with some IRC or
He's
something.
doing all the work behind the scenes, so I'm just pretty face. Don't worry.
Oh, there you go. Proper management of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I understand you.
I'll
All right.
be the
Well,
one answering on Discord, of course, probably.
awesome. Well, we appreciate it. So anything else you guys want to point out or say before we go for the day?
Well, I think that's it for me.
What about you, Matush? All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me and appreciate the demo. And we hope everyone has a good time. Don't have too much fun.
See ya.
See ya.